If you are someone who loves filling your house with beautiful, exotic indoor plants, please stop what you are doing and listen to this very carefully. 2 weeks ago, I bought a stunning, completely unlabeled tropical plant from a sweet older man at a local farmer's market. It had gorgeous, velvety, deep purple leaves and a strange, sweet, honey-like fragrance that instantly filled our living room. I thought it was the perfect centerpiece for our family home. But exactly 48 hours after I set it on the coffee table, my husband collapsed onto the carpet. My 5-year-old daughter stopped breathing, and I was frantically dialing 911 with hands that were rapidly losing all sensation. We didn't bring a decoration into our house. We brought a silent chemical weapon. My name is Lily, 31F, and I live in a quiet, sunny suburb with my husband, Ryan, 33M, and our beautiful daughter, Maya, 5. Like many moms, I am obsessed with making our home feel cozy, warm, and alive. My favorite hobby is collecting houseplants. Our windowsills are covered in pothos, ferns, and succulents. They make the air feel clean, and they bring me peace after a long, stressful day at my job as a bank teller. On a crisp Saturday morning, I went to our local community farmers market to buy fresh vegetables. Near the back corner of the market, there was an old wooden cart filled with rare, unusual flora. The elderly vendor told me he imported rare varieties from South America as a hobby. Among them was a magnificent small plant with large, heart-shaped leaves that were so dark purple they looked almost completely black. In the center of the leaves sat a cluster of small, waxy white flowers that emitted a heavy, incredibly pleasant, sweet perfume. There was no plastic tag, no botanical name, and no care instructions. The old man just smiled and said, "She loves the dark, needs very little water, and she will change the entire atmosphere of your house." He sold it to me for just $15. I felt like I had found a rare treasure. I brought the plant home, wiped its glossy leaves with a damp cloth, and placed it right in the center of our open-concept living room on the wooden coffee table. When Ryan came home from work, he immediately noticed the scent, commenting on how amazing the house smelled, like a luxury spa. Little Maya was fascinated by the velvety texture of the dark purple leaves, reaching out to gently touch them. I felt a wave of maternal pride looking at our beautiful, perfect living space. That evening, we ate dinner right next to the plant, laughing, talking about our upcoming weekend plans, and breathing in that heavy, intoxicating honey fragrance. We had absolutely no idea that every time we inhaled that sweet perfume, a highly concentrated, volatile organic alkaloid was entering our respiratory systems, slowly binding to our red blood cells and quietly cutting off the oxygen supply to our vital organs. The nightmare began on Sunday morning, roughly 20 hours after the plant entered our home. I woke up with a strange, heavy pressure behind my eyes and a bitter, metallic taste in the back of my throat. I assumed I was just coming down with a seasonal flu or a common cold. When I went downstairs to the kitchen, Ryan was already sitting at the table, holding a mug of black coffee. He looked incredibly pale, his eyes were bloodshot, and he told me he felt completely exhausted, as if he hadn't slept a single minute. He complained of a severe, throbbing headache that wouldn't go away even after taking 3 aspirin. We both laughed it off, blaming it on the rainy weather and the sudden drop in atmospheric pressure. But then Maya woke up. Our usually energetic, bubbly little girl was completely lethargic. She refused to eat her favorite pancakes, complained that her stomach hurt, and curled up on the sofa with her blanket, falling back into a heavy, unnatural sleep. As the afternoon progressed, the air inside our house felt increasingly thick and heavy. The sweet, honey-like fragrance of the purple plant had become so intense that it was almost sickeningly sweet, suffocatingly dense. I tried to open the living room windows to let some fresh air in, but the winter weather outside was freezing, and Ryan started shivering violently, begging me to close them. My head felt like it was trapped in a thick fog. I couldn't focus on my thoughts, and my movements became slow and clumsy. I dropped a glass plate in the kitchen, watching it shatter into pieces on the tiles, but my brain felt too numb to even care. I looked at Ryan, who was now lying on the couch next to Maya. Both of them were breathing in a strange, shallow pattern, rapid, short gasps followed by long, terrifying pauses. I thought about calling a doctor, but the cognitive fog was so thick that I couldn't remember where I had left my phone. I sat down in an armchair, feeling a heavy, irresistible weight pulling my eyelids shut. I don't know how many hours passed while I sat in that frozen, semi-conscious state. I was snapped back into reality at around 8 p.m. by a horrific, choking sound. I forced my eyes open, my vision blurred and spinning violently. I looked toward the sofa. My little daughter Maya was shaking in the middle of a violent seizure, her small hands clawing at her throat, her lips turning a terrifying shade of dark blue. Ryan tried to stand up to help her, but the moment his feet hit the floor, his knees buckled completely, and he collapsed heavily onto the carpet, knocking over the coffee table. The beautiful purple plant fell, its ceramic pot shattering, spilling dark, damp soil and its crushed, bruised leaves right next to his head. The crushing weight of the honey scent exploded in the room, 10 times stronger than before. Panic finally pierced through my neurological fog, releasing a desperate burst of adrenaline. I tried to stand, but my legs felt like lead weights. I fell to my knees, crawling across the carpet toward my daughter. Every movement felt like I was moving through thick molasses. My fingertips were completely numb, tingling with a terrifying pins and needles sensation. I managed to reach the kitchen counter, grabbing my phone with hands that couldn't even grip the plastic properly. My fingers were shaking so violently I couldn't unlock the screen. On the third attempt, I managed to swipe the screen and dialed 911. My voice didn't sound like my own. It was a slurred, slow whisper. "My family. We can't breathe. My daughter is blue. Please." The dispatcher's voice sounded miles away, asking for our address, but before I could finish the sentence, a severe wave of nausea hit me, and the phone slipped from my numb fingers, sliding across the wet floor into the dark. I lay there on the cold kitchen floor, unable to move, listening to the agonizing, shallow gasps of my husband and daughter in the next room. I thought we were going to die right there, victims of a silent, invisible assassin that I had willingly bought and paid for, but the emergency dispatcher was highly trained. Even though our call had cut out, they managed to trace the landline cellular ping to our exact suburban address, registering it as a high-priority, unverified distress signal. 20 minutes later, the blinding red and blue lights of emergency vehicles illuminated our dark living room windows, slicing through the thick shadows. I heard the heavy metallic thud of an axe splintering our front door, followed by the shouting voices of first responders breaching the house. The paramedics rushed into the room wearing heavy tactical oxygen masks. They didn't understand what was happening at first. There was no smoke, no smell of natural gas, and no fire. But the lead paramedic, a veteran responder, smelled that heavy, suffocating honey fragrance and saw the crushed purple leaves scattered across the carpet next to Ryan's head. He immediately yelled to his team, "Chemical hazard, neurotoxin exposure, ventilation now." They smashed our large living room windows with their axes, letting the freezing winter air flood the house, clearing out the invisible poison. They scooped Maya up in a thick thermal blanket, shoved an oxygen mask over her tiny face, and carried her out to the ambulance. 2 firefighters dragged Ryan and me out onto the snow-covered front lawn. As the pure, freezing night air hit my lungs, my chest burned like fire, and I began to violently vomit, my mind slowly clearing from the terrifying chemical trance. We spent 4 days in the intensive care unit under strict hyperbaric oxygen therapy. The doctors explained that our blood oxygen levels had dropped to near-fatal numbers. Another 30 minutes in that house, and all 3 of us would have suffered permanent brain death. While we were recovering, a specialist team from the state agricultural department inspected our house and identified the plant from the crushed remains. It was a rare, highly toxic mutation of Brugmansia violacea, commonly known in remote jungle regions as the devil's breath orchid. In its natural habitat, the plant uses its intense, sweet honey pheromones to paralyze birds and insects. But when placed inside a confined, unventilated indoor space, the warmth of the house causes the leaves to exude an airborne, volatile tropane alkaloid that acts as a potent respiratory neurotoxin, slowly paralyzing the human nervous system and causing asphyxiation. The old man at the market was never found. His wooden cart was gone, and the market organizers had no records of his registration. He had likely harvested the plant illegally, or didn't understand its true danger himself. We survived, but our lives are permanently changed. We returned to our house, but I couldn't look at my windowsills the same way again. We threw away every single houseplant we owned, replacing them with safe, synthetic silk decorations. The fear of what is hiding inside a simple green leaf will never truly leave me. I learned the hardest lesson of my life. Nature doesn't care about your aesthetic. If you bring something living into your home, into the space where your children sleep, make sure you know exactly what its name is, because a beautiful flower without a label can easily become the last thing your family ever smells.